Okay, number 5, another one we have to use transformations, but this time we have a natural log. Alright, so the first we notice here is the x is not written in properly because the x comes second. For transformations to work, you have to make sure you write the x first. So we're first going to switch the order of those two things. So we'll do negative natural log. We're going to switch the order and do negative x plus 3. But we're still not quite done with this because the x has to be positive in front of there. So we're going to do one more step. We're going to factor out the negative in front of the x here. So we're going to do negative natural log. Inside, we're going to factor out a negative, and that's going to give us inside there a negative times x minus 3. So it's very important to you have to factor this negative out before you start drawing this, otherwise you may have it going in the wrong direction. Okay, so instead of a plus, we actually have a minus, which means the graph's going to move to the right. Okay, so we have two negatives in here, which means that we're also going to have two flips happening inside there as well. Okay, so start with a base graph. In this case, we're doing natural log x. Now this could be natural log x, log base 2 of x. It could be log of any kind of base, and this is what the general graph's going to look like. We have a place where it's going to cross the x-axis at 1, 0. It's going to have a vertical asymptote, and it's going to just climb like that. So that's what the general ln graph looks like. Now again, I'm not looking for accuracy. If you have a bigger base, like a log base 10 or something, then maybe it might be closer to the x-axis, but again, I'm not concerned about that kind of accuracy, just looking for general sketches here. That's our base graph. So then what we'll do first is we're going to take care of the x minus 3 that's inside there, and then we'll deal with these two flips. Okay, so we have x minus 3. That means that the graph is going to move 3 places to the right. Remember, it's always opposite. You move it opposite direction of the number you see inside here. So if it's a plus, we'd be moving it to the left. But negative means we move it 3 places to the right. So 3 places to the right. This is where our new vertical asymptote is going to go. Also, this point that's here, that's going to move from this point. It's at 1. If we add 3 to it, it's going to appear at 4. So then we have a graph that looks like this. It's going to look exactly the same as the original one. We just shifted 3 places over to the right. Now, it doesn't matter what order you do these negatives. Let me do the inside one first. I'm going to do natural log of negative x minus 3. So we'll write that. So we'll apply one negative first, and the very last one we'll apply the negative on the outside. Now what the negative inside is going to do is it's going to take this graph and it's going to flip it, and because we have a vertical asymptote this time, it actually gets reflected about the vertical asymptote. So I'm still going to see that vertical asymptote here. It's still going to be going through at 3. But instead of the point going this way, 1 to the right, it's now going to go 1 to the left. This whole thing flips over to here. So now your x-intercept is going to be there. And so the graph is going to now look like this. Okay. Now next, we have to apply the negative that is on the outside, and that would be our finished graph. Negative natural log of negative x minus 3. That's the one we're going to do now. Okay, so with the extra negative that's there, it's going to take the graph in this position, it's going to flip that over the horizontal axis. So we can use this as our pivot point. So we're still going to see the graph have a vertical asymptote of 3. It's still going to cross through at this point, but because we flipped that, what's going to happen is the graph is now going to go down like this. It's going to fall. So this is what your final graph would look like. Now if you take a look at that question also, it asks you for a couple more things. It asks you first of all for the x-intercept, and it also asks you for domain on this one. Both of these, we can get these directly off of the graph that we found as our answer. So for x-intercept, we can just read that off of the graph. X-intercept is going to be 2. And domain we can get from this graph also. Your domain is going to be everything that is less than 3. So it means it's going to be from negative infinity to 3, and we'll put a parenthesis on that because the graph's never actually going to reach our vertical asymptote. Okay, it's also going to ask you for the VA, vertical asymptote. So vertical asymptote, you can get that from this graph as well. It's going to be x, make sure you put x equals on that, and you're just going to put 3. So in order to get full credit for the VA, make sure you put the x equals in there. In fact, any kind of asymptote you have on this test, if it asks you for horizontal, slant, vertical, you got to make sure you put a variable there, either x equals, y equals, need something in there, make it an equation.